Good evening, students. We were covering the second lesson of history, okay, from trade to territory. And we have covered the topic, the Battle of Plassey. And we saw that when the Battle of Plassey was fought, we saw that the Nawab of Bengal, Sirajuddaulah, he was defeated, okay, because one of his commanders, Mir Jafar, he did not participate in the battle. Okay, the commanding forces which were under him did not participate in the battle. As such, okay, the British, they got an opportunity to defeat the Nawab, and we see that it was with the help of Mir Jafar that Robert Clive, he was able to defeat Sirajuddaulah. Sirajuddaulah was defeated in the Battle of Plassey, which was held on 23rd of June 1757. Okay, and we see that Sirajuddaulah, he was defeated and he was assassinated. As we know that the company was not interested in direct administration of the territories of the country. So because they were interested in trade, they were getting more profit as far as trade was concerned. They were in the mood of experimenting with puppet rulers, and they got an opportunity after the Battle of Plassey to experiment with the puppet rulers. So the first puppet ruler of Bengal was Mir Jafar. So we see that Mir Jafar, he was made the Nawab of Bengal, okay. But when Mir Jafar, he became the Nawab of Bengal, the treasury of Bengal was completely empty because the company was demanding too much. The company was demanding too much from the Nawab in lieu of making him the Nawab of Bengal. So we see that the company takes an opportunity, and when the Nawab abide by the instructions of the company, what they do? They depose him. Okay, Mir Jafar is deposed and Mir Qasim is made the Nawab of Bengal. Okay, and we saw that under Mir Qasim, okay, under Mir Qasim, we saw a new trend began in the history of Bengal, and we saw that Mir Qasim, okay, he knew the intention of the British, okay, and yesterday we covered the topic. We saw that Mir Qasim, okay, what he did, the first and foremost thing which he did was, okay, he shifted his capital. He shifted his capital from Murshidabad. He shifted his capital from Murshidabad. We know Plassey was just 22 miles from Murshidabad where the battle was fought. Okay, so in order to prevent any kind of attack from the company's side, okay, what he did, the foremost thing which he did was he shifted his capital from Murshidabad to Munger. Okay, so this is the first step which he is taking. And the second step which he took, okay, Mir Qasim, what he did was, okay, he repaired the fort. He repaired the fort and built a palace. He's strengthening his position. He's strengthening his position after becoming the Nawab of Bengal. He's not repeating the mistake which was done by Mir Jafar. Okay, so he repaired the fort and built a palace. After that, what we see is, okay, he's listening to the grievances. He's listening to the grievances. He's restoring the authority of the Nawab. He is not merely acting as a puppet ruler, but he is restoring the authority of the Nawab. He is restoring the authority of the Nawab by listening to the people's grievances. By listening to the people's, okay, grievances in an open court, and after listening to their grievances, okay, he is also dispensing justice. He is also dispensing justice. And apart from this, what other steps which he took? Okay, we see when we go through the history of Bengal after Battle of Plassey, what we see is, okay, we see that Mir Qasim, okay, he reduced the expenses on administration. He reduced the expenses on administration. You must understand why, okay, in your book it has been mentioned that first Mir Jafar was made the Nawab of Bengal after the Battle of Plassey. Again Mir Qasim was made the Nawab of Bengal, and again we see Mir Jafar is okay, uh, he is placed on the throne back again. So what was the reason? What was the reason behind this, okay, shifting of the Nawabs on the throne by the company? Okay, the reason must be understood by you. Okay, what were the reasons behind this? So we see he reduced the expenses on administration. Okay, and he removes, what he does, he removed the incompetent, the officials who are not able to perform in a better way. He is removing these incompetent, okay, servants, and those, okay, who are close to the British, and those who are close to the British. Okay, so you see it is with the help of the British is becoming the Nawab, but he is not, okay, giving up any opportunity, okay, for the British to, okay, take over him. And again we see that apart from taking these, okay, important steps, what he does is, okay, he also hires, we see that Mir Qasim, okay, he had European experts, he had European experts to train his army, okay, to train his army. And the most important step which was taken by Mir Qasim, which infuriated the company officials. What was the step? Okay, the last and the most important step that was taken by Mir Qasim was that he abolished all duties. He abolished, okay, all duties on all duties on internal trade. He abolished all duties on internal trade so that so that both so that both Indians, okay, and British merchants, so that both Indians and British merchants can, okay, trade on equal terms. So we see that all these were the important steps, okay, which were taken by Mir Qasim to, okay, strengthen his position as the Nawab of Bengal, okay. And the company officials, the East India Company, the English East India Company was keeping a careful, okay, was carefully observing the activities of the new Nawab Mir Qasim, okay. And all these activities of Mir Qasim was not liked by the company. So we see that, okay, the situation, okay, there was a conflict between the company officials and the Nawab, and we see that all this was not liked by the company, which led to, okay, the company was not in favor, okay, of this. They disliked all these activities of this, and what happened? This led to, okay, this led to a series of battles. This led to a series of battles between the Nawab. A series of battles was fought, okay, between the Nawab Mir Qasim and the company. So we see what happens, okay. Due to this series of battles, okay, when Mir Qasim finds that he is not able to withstand the British power, what he does, okay, he flees to Awadh, okay. Mir Qasim fled to Awadh, okay. Mir Qasim is defeated and he fled to Awadh, and he enters into an alliance. When he reaches Awadh, he enters into an alliance. He is not ready to give up as the Nawab of Bengal. So what he does, he enters into an alliance with the Nawab of Awadh, okay, with the Nawab of Awadh. Who was the Nawab of Awadh that time? The Nawab of Awadh was, okay, Sujauddaulah. So we see that he enters into an alliance with Nawab of Awadh, okay, Sujauddaulah. And on the other side, okay, he, okay, also enters an alliance with the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II. Okay, and I'm writing it on top. So we see that he enters into an alliance with the Nawab of Awadh Sujauddaulah and the Mughal Emperor, Shah Alam II. Shah Alam II. Okay. So we see that Mir Qasim, he enters into an alliance, okay, with the Nawab of Awadh Sujauddaulah. Okay. I think the lower part is not visible. ड्यू टू लाइट के वजह से नीचे का नहीं दिखाते. मीर कासिम, okay, he enters into an alliance with Sujauddaulah, Nawab of Awadh, and the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II. Shah Alam II. Now you see, okay, what happens, okay. Now you see that, okay, Mir Qasim, he is able to, okay, strengthen his position as the Nawab after going into an alliance with the, okay, Nawab of Awadh and the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam. So we see that again the forces from both the sides, from Mir Qasim side and again from, okay, the British side, from the side of the British, they meet. Okay, we see that, okay, we see that the combined forces, we see that the combined forces from Mir Qasim side okay, Mir Qasim side and the company side. Okay, we see that the forces from both sides they meet at Buxar. They meet at Buxar and eventually the Battle of Buxar is fought. And eventually, okay, the Battle of Buxar is fought in the year 1764. Is fought on 22nd of October 1764, and we know that the Battle of Plassey was fought on 23rd of June 1757. So you see the time gap, okay, nearly 7 years have passed by, okay, nearly 7 years have passed by, and within a span of 7 years we see again a battle is being fought, okay, between the Nawab of Bengal and the company, okay, as far as the state of Bengal is concerned. So we see that the Battle of Buxar, it was a decisive battle. As the Battle of Buxar, it was a decisive battle as far as the, okay, history of Bengal is concerned, because the British armies, as far as Battle of Plassey was concerned, we saw it was the Governor General Robert Clive who led the battle. But as far as Battle of Buxar is concerned, we see that the British armies under, okay, okay, we see that the British armies under, okay, Lord Munro. Lord Munro was the Governor General that time, okay, gave a crushing defeat. Gave a crushing defeat to the Allied powers. And which were these Allied powers? The Allied powers were that of Mir Qasim, Sujauddaulah, and the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II. Okay, so we see that the British armies under Lord Munro gave a crushing defeat to the Allied powers, and these Allied powers were Mir Qasim, okay, Mir Qasim, Sujauddaulah, the Nawab of Awadh, and the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II. Okay, the war came to an end. We see that the Battle of Buxar, it came to an end. The war came to an end with the signing of the, okay, the Allied powers were not able to face the, okay, British army under Lord Munro, and finally they were defeated and they were forced to sign the Treaty of Allahabad. The war came to an end with the, okay, signing of the Treaty of Allahabad. Okay, this treaty was signed So we see that the Treaty of Allahabad was signed, okay, in 1765. Between whom? This treaty was signed between Sujauddaulah, Shah Alam II, and the British. Okay, so we see that this treaty was signed between these three. Sujauddaulah, the Nawab of Awadh, okay, the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II, and the British. Now, what were the terms of the treaty? Let us go through the terms of the treaty. Okay, the terms of the Treaty of Allahabad. Terms of the Treaty of Allahabad. What were these treaty? The terms. When we go through the terms, we see that it were the British who become the real masters of Bengal after the Battle of Buxar. According to the terms of the Treaty of Allahabad, okay, we see that the first term was that we see that the company is securing, the company secured the Diwani right. Diwani right means the right to collect revenue. Okay, the right of collection of land revenue is called Diwani. Okay, secured the Diwani right of Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa. Who is giving this Diwani? Okay, this Diwani was given. The right to Diwani was granted by the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II. Okay, the company secured the Diwani right of Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa. Okay, from the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II. Okay, then Sujauddaulah is given back his Awadh. Okay, since he was the Nawab of Awadh, he was given back his kingdom. Okay, got Awadh, but he had to give up. Okay, he had to give up. Okay, the districts of Kora and Allahabad. Districts of Kora and Allahabad. Okay, these are given to the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam. So he is getting back his Awadh. The kingdom of Awadh is given back to Sujauddaulah, but Sujauddaulah has to give up the districts of Kora and Allahabad to Shah Alam. Okay, so this was the second term of the treaty, and as far as the other terms are concerned, we see that you must understand these treaties very well. Okay, if you will not understand the Treaty of Allahabad, you will not be able to understand the grant of Diwani and the benefits of Diwani which the company was able to get after the Battle of Buxar. Okay, we see that the Nawab of Awadh, since he participated in the battle against the British, okay, the Nawab, he was asked to pay war indemnity, had to pay, okay, war indemnity of rupees 50 lakh, okay, to the British. So we see that the Nawab of Awadh had to pay war indemnity, okay. It was like a fine. He was punished, okay, for participating in the battle against the company. He had to pay a fine of rupees 50 lakhs to the British. And we see that, okay, the company agreed to give. The Mughal emperor is sent on a pension. Okay, he is, okay, the company agreed to give rupees 26 lakh, rupees 26 lakhs annually. Okay, annually as pension to the Mughal emperor, as pension to the Mughal emperor. And the Mughal emperor is also the, okay, after giving the grant of Diwani, the Mughal emperor is becoming powerless. We see all the, okay, revenue collection rights are going to the, okay, company's side. So we see the very little is left with the Nawab. Very little is left with the Nawab to run over his administration. Okay. So we see that the British, they are emerging as the final victorious person. Okay, and we see that the British, they got the right to trade. They also got the right to trade in Awadh. They are getting the right to trade duty free. Okay, they are getting the right to trade duty free in Awadh. The Nawab of Awadh, apart from this, the Nawab of Awadh is also supposed to maintain, the Nawab of Awadh has to maintain okay, the Nawab of Awadh has to maintain the British army at the expense of his province. So we see it is from here that the, okay, one of the important policies of the British, it began, and this policy was that of subsidiary alliance. As you go through the chapter, as you further go through the chapter, you will come across the different doctrines that were applied by the British for annexing the territories of the subcontinent. And one of the important doctrines that was initiated by the British was subsidiary alliance under Lord Wellesley. Okay, Richard Wellesley, he started the, okay, doctrine of subsidiary alliance, under which the ruler was supposed to maintain a, okay, a British troop in his army, and he was also asked to bear all the expenses of the army. And when he failed to do so, okay, a part of his territory was annexed to the British Empire. Okay, so we see that the Nawab of Awadh, Sujaudullah, he is supposed to maintain the British army at the expense of his province. So these were the terms of the treaty. And we see that after the battle of Buxar, okay, we see that now a new Nawab is required to be, okay, set on the throne of Bengal. So we see that again Mir Jafar was reinstalled. So we see that after the battle of Buxar, we see that Mir Jafar was reinstalled. Mir Jafar was reinstalled as the Nawab of Bengal. As the Nawab of Bengal. And he was asked to, okay, when Mir Jafar again, when he became, for the second time, when Mir Jafar, he became the Nawab of Bengal, okay, the company asked him to pay rupees 5 lakh, okay, rupees 5 lakh monthly for, okay, for maintaining the British troops and all the administrative expenses of the British army. So we see that, okay, rupees 5 lakh was charged from the Nawab, okay, by the company. And we see that, okay, with this money, okay, with this by the company every month, okay, but the company was not satisfied. The company was not satisfied with this, okay, amount. The company wanted more. Okay, the company wanted more trade concessions. The company wanted more territories under it. Okay, because the company, okay, wanted to expands, okay, expands its, was interested in territorial expansion. And we see that the Nawab is pressurized. The Nawab is pressurized to pay more. But, okay, a sad incident takes place and we see that Mir Jafar, he died. Okay, Mir Jafar, he died in the year, okay, 1765. And with this we see that now the British have no other option. The British have no other option but to take over the administration of, okay, Bengal. We see that Mir Jafar, he died. He died in the year 1765. Okay, and with his death, we see that it is Robert Clive who claimed that, okay, the British should now finally take over as the administrators of Bengal. So we see that it is Robert Clive who, okay, remarks that, okay, now we cannot experiment with the puppet rulers. Now we must take over the administration of Bengal. And we see that after the, so we see that after his death, okay, the company, okay, becomes the real administrator of Bengal. Okay. So we see that now, okay, now that Mir Jafar is dead, okay, the company has no other option but to, okay, directly interfere in the administration of the of Bengal. But when we go through the history of Bengal, we see that it was Shah Alam, okay, it was Shah Alam, the Mughal emperor, who carried on with the affairs of the, okay, administration of Bengal. Okay, and he was given, Shah Alam, he was given very little to run over the administration because all the revenue collection rights were taken up by the British. So we see that a kind of dual government existed. A kind of dual government existed in Bengal. Okay, there was a system of, okay, we see that there was a system of dual government, also known as double government, okay, or double government, okay, being followed in Bengal. And what was this government? Okay, what was this kind of setup? Okay, under this setup, we see that the Mughal emperor, under this setup, we see that the Mughal emperor, he was given, okay, very little. As we saw that he is getting 26 lakhs rupees. He is getting an annual pension of 26 lakh rupees, okay, for running over the administration as the Nawab. So we see that though he is responsible for the welfare of the people of the territory, but he is left without the resources. All the resources are with the company. Okay, the Nawab is with responsibility, and the responsibility is the welfare of the, okay, welfare of the people of the territory which he was ruling, but he was without resources. Okay, and it was the company which was with all the resources. The company had access to all the resources. It was getting the right to collect the revenue, the land revenue, which was an important source of income at that time. Okay, and we see that the company had no responsibility. So we see that the Nawab, he was with responsibility but no power, and the company were with power but no responsibility. So this kind of system existed in Bengal until what? This kind of system existed in Bengal till 1772. we see that a severe famine, okay, a severe famine struck Bengal in the year 1770. And due to this, okay, ignorant attitude, the negligent attitude, okay, of the Nawabs and the company towards the people of the territory, we see that the region is struck by a famine, okay, one of the, okay, important famines as far as the history of Bengal is concerned. Okay, Bengal, there was a famine. We see that there was a severe famine in Bengal in the year 1770. Okay, and when this famine struck Bengal, okay, we see when this famine struck Bengal, neither the Nawab nor the company was interested. Neither the Nawab nor the company was interested in, okay, the interest, were interested in looking after the interest of the people of the territory. So we see, okay, that this system, okay, the dual system, it existed in Bengal, okay, till 1772. And we see that Warren Hastings, okay, he became the governor of Bengal. He became the Governor General of Bengal in the year 1770. Okay, 3. In 1772, okay, the system of dual system of governance, it came to an end, and Warren Hastings, he became the Governor of Bengal in the year 1773. And it is from this time period we see that the company is full-fledgedly interested, okay, it is now, okay, expanding the territories under British administration in a full-fledged manner. Okay, yes, any questions? Yes beta, you are able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
बेटा किसी को कुछ पूछना है?
No, ma'am.
Any